Good evening and welcome to this meeting of the Place and Sustainability Overview and Scrutiny Panel. I'm Councillor Steve Rippenswain, Chairman. I will now hand over to Democratic Services to read the housekeeping note.
Please note that this meeting is being broadcast live on the Council's website and on YouTube. It will remain available for a minimum of 12 months. Please use your microphone and switch it off once you have finished speaking. Please switch any mobile devices to silent. If the fire alarm rings, please leave the room and use the nearest fire exit. Do not use the lift. Please go to the fire assembly point in the car park. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. For the benefit of those watching the meeting online, please would members introduce themselves and officers when called during the meeting, if not already introduced by name. First item on the agenda is apologies. Do I have any apologies?
No apologies, Chairman.
Item 1, minutes. Members, to approve the minutes of the meeting held on the 15th of January 2026. Are we agreed? Agreed. Thank you. Item 2, declarations of interest. Again, members, if you remember to declare an interest as the item comes up, please do declare it. But at the moment, there seems to be no suggestions at the moment. Thank you. Item 2, public participation. There is none. Item 4, economic development strategy.
Chairman, we're going to go to climate change, aren't we? Taking the climate change.
We are indeed. But as prior agreed, item number 5 needs to be brought forward first, as one of the lead members has to go. So we'll go to item 5 first of all, the climate change and nature emergency, task and finish group outcomes. Chris Noble is fronting up, but Steve Garner is putting us in the picture. Is that right, Chris?
Yep, I shall pass straight to my colleague Steve and Ros, who will introduce themselves now. Thank you.
Right. Okay, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. Steve Garner, Climate and Sustainability Lead.
And Ros Carval, Sustainability Officer.
Thank you.
The following presentation sets out the outcomes of the task and finish group for the climate change and nature emergency, which commenced between May 2025 and February 26. The Council declared a climate change and nature emergency in 2021. The purpose of the task and finish group, as set out within the terms of reference, were to develop long-term strategy and short-term actions. 6 sessions convened across 2025 into 2026, with each session having a different focus with specific content from each session covered in the report.
So just to help understand the task and finish group process a little bit further, we just wanted to provide you with a brief overview of what members fed back to us throughout the 6 sessions. More detail on the content of these sessions and the feedback can be found in the accompanying report. So session 1 focused on where we are now, and whilst the member feedback in the session did not directly inform the priorities and objectives, it was still useful context. So members raised the need for increased collaboration between agencies working across climate change, making use of training opportunities, including things like carbon literacy, and they emphasised the value that both local parish councils and community could add to local projects. Session 2 then looked at carbon reduction, and feedback from members in this section included the need to focus on reducing fleet emissions, implement carbon reduction measures across our corporate estates, and members were keen for NFDC to lead by example and look to influence the industry and key partners. Members were also keen to encourage active and sustainable travel through things like the local plan. Thank you. So session 3 was then climate adaptation. Members' feedback showed that flooding was seen as a really key hazard to their wards in the district, as well as heat waves and coastal erosion also being seen as key priorities. Members shared that there was an increased need for education and awareness raising amongst residents, communities, businesses, officers and members to help support adaptation. This is supported by the need for local resilience planning within communities as well. Session 4 then covered nature recovery, and members expressed continued support for partnership strategies and action plans, and members were also keen to see an increase in biodiversity on our SANG land and ANRG, and there was strong support for running initiatives and projects on our own land as well. In session 5, members reviewed programme management and fed back the importance of communicating our aims and successes clearly, both internally and externally, supported through a continued social media presence through the Look Out for Our Forest campaign. Members were also keen to ensure that any data that was used was easy to understand and supported the continuation of partnership working. Session 6 then looked at where we want to be, so it brought all this feedback together and gave members the opportunity to review proposed priorities and objectives moving forward, and they had the chance to make any edits as they felt were needed. In this session, members also reviewed a revised governance structure, and a draft sustainability policy.
On the next 4 slides, we will present the proposed priorities and objectives for the 4 programme areas, and we will invite any feedback at the end. Starting with carbon reduction, we have the internal and external priorities as shown here, as well as in the appendices of the report. Some of the objectives within these priorities include continuing to focus on our estate and fleet emissions and retrofitting existing homes. These are supported by continued business as usual improvements at the bottom of the table.
So then looking at climate adaptation, so just on the screen you can see the proposed priorities and objectives. They follow the same structure, looking internally and externally, supported by those continued business as usual improvements. Objectives in this programme area range from a focus of preparing our buildings for a changing climate and also helping to build resilience in those communities.
For nature recovery, the proposed priorities can be seen here with objectives that include habitat protection and creation both on NFDC's own land and in the district, as well as planning and open spaces strategies, maintenance and upkeep.
That brings us then on to programme management, the final of the 4 programme areas, and we can see the proposed priorities and objectives here, including that look at both internal and external communications, as well as having a key focus on shared opportunities and working with communities.
We welcome any comments from members at this stage, and we'd be happy to take any questions at this point. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you both very much. But before we move on, would Councillor Clark like to say anything before we go into debate?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I'll start off by thanking the officers, and there's been quite a large number of people who've been attending the Task and Finish group, and the sheer amount of information that we've been supplied with is absolutely quite amazing. The amount of data that goes into producing a report like this. So I'd like to congratulate the officers and thank them for all their hard work. When you looked at the objectives just now, nothing has actually been taken out, but the headings have been sort of refined so that they're not so cramped and crowded. So there's now nice clear headings for those 4 areas of objectives. Just in case you think anything's now missing, nothing is missing. It's all there when you get into the actual detail of the report, but the objectives, I think, are clearer and are much more focused in. I think the way we're moving forward, and I hope that members here will agree that it's a good report, I think the way we're moving forward is a common sense approach. It looks to the future, and there's no doubt about it that when we look at the facts and figures, there are some scary pieces of information in there. So we do need to take this seriously, which is one of the reasons I think we in one of the slides you saw concentrate on informing and educating the public, which I think is absolutely essential so that they clearly understand. And some of the issues around resilience and what we need to do across the forest. Each area of the forest will have perhaps different resilience issues. Obviously, flooding affects some parts of our area more than others. But the issues around heat waves and that, if we look at last summer, I think there's some significant issues that we need to be educating our public about how to take the right approaches. It's not just as simple as saying drink water. It's much more complex than that. So, as I say, I commend the report, and I've thanked the officers. The final thing is to thank all the members of the Task and Finish group as well, who had some considerable amount of paperwork to read at various times, and I think they did pretty well. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, it is a good report, and it shows that the authority is looking at the things that it should look at and working to try and improve them, and one can only pay tribute to that. But there's two things I would like to raise, and one of them the chairman of the Task and Finish group has already alluded to. But before I get to that one, the first thing is it's great looking at what we're doing, but this will only be resolved by a much wider, and if we put it down to our area, by the residents of the New Forest. Everybody can do something to make a difference, because no one agency can solve this. And you're absolutely right, the fact we have massive amount of rainfall and flooding now, and it's not going to get any better. And we can have total droughts, and we have a forest which could catch fire. We've had forest fires in this country, would you believe it? Well, I've been to Canada and seen they've had massive forest fires. So there's lots of things that we need to be cognizant of. And what we need to do, it's good that we're working with other agencies, but we need to get out to a wider audience. And this brings to the point that I think the chairman of the panel alluded to. We need to engage with our public more about this issue, particularly with our comms. Now, admit we've had the bins, and we had LGR, but all of those this year will be sort of resolved. So this gives us, as an authority, as part of our legacy, the opportunity to really engage with our residents about what they can do to help themselves and all of us in perhaps, even if it's only little changes, every little change to what they do can reduce the impact on the climate. And anything that we can help them and advise with them and share with them and encourage them can only be for the good, Chairman.
Councillor Glass? No? No? No one else? Well, thank you very much indeed. I think it's been fairly comprehensive and fairly extensive. But I think Malcolm's right. It's a matter of getting the message across to the ordinary man in the street, because combined together, they're probably the biggest influence under the circumstances. Right, well, if everybody is happy with what has come forward, I will take you to page 43, which is the recommendation, and I think we've completed it as item 1 and item 2. We've noted the outcomes, and there's obviously a general agreement in the conclusion, and what the Task and Finish has run. And I think we all should thank the members of that Task and Finish group for an extensive investigation and considerations. So thank you for that. So are we in agreement with the recommendations panel? Agreed. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chairman. I shall now slip away.
By all means, yes. Right. We'll get back on course to item 4, which is the economic development strategy. In the light, I hope. Tim Guiner, can you kick off first for us, please?
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Yes, good evening. Tim Geimer, Assistant Director for Place Development at New Forest District Council. Thank you for inviting us to speak on this item. We're here to present the draft New Forest Economic Development Strategy, taking us from this year up to 2030. The report does refer to the previous strategy, which is now out of date, and this draft strategy is looking to make sure that we have an up-to-date strategy taking us forward over the next few years. We are outlining in here how the Council proposed to support a vibrant, inclusive and resilient local economy in response to the District's well-documented opportunities as well as some of its challenges. As set out in the report, the New Forest continues to face significant demographic and structural pressures, which I don't need to go through in detail with you, but they'll sound familiar. These include an ageing and declining working age population, high housing costs, limited transport connectivity, and some digital barriers that affect businesses and residents. However, at the same time, we benefit from strengths which are unique to the New Forest, particularly its natural attractiveness, its visitor destination, it's a strong port and marine economy, and a renewed visitor economy, as I've just talked about, as well as real improvement to the levels of higher level qualifications of our residents. And it doesn't need me to kind of remind you of the opportunities which there are across the New Forest as we go forward, particularly linked to the Freeport and the waterside, but not solely. The New Forest has a number of key businesses which are both those which have been in existence for 100 years or more, and also those which are newly started and really thriving. So the local economy is valued at £6.4 billion as of the date of the report, and it supports around 84,000 jobs and just under 8,000 enterprises. The productivity and representation in knowledge-intensive sectors remain below national averages, and the strategy therefore seeks to address these challenges directly while placing the district in the strongest possible position to secure external investment and collaborate effectively with our regional partners and, of course, our key businesses. The strategy talks about 6 priorities that it is proposed we will guide our economic development work over the next 4 years, and they include championing key growth sectors, accelerating the low-carbon transition, developing skills for the future, revitalising our town and local centres, unlocking investment through strategic partnerships, fostering a culture of enterprise and innovation. So, Chair, this evening members are invited to provide comments and feedback on the draft document ahead of its consideration by Cabinet later this summer. At this point, I would like to hand over to Jeannie Satchell, the Council's Economic Development Manager, who will give you a verbal update on the comments received through the focus consultation that the report talks about. Jeannie, over to you.
Thank you. Good evening. So we have consulted on the economic development strategy, and our feedback has included feedback from the New Forest Business Partnership, the Federation of Small Businesses and Hampshire County Council. The suggestions are for inclusion rather than a change of direction. Everybody felt that the overall approach is very positive and provides a strong basis for future planning and collaboration. The strategy aligns well with wider documents, including the New Forest Skills Action Plan and Local Skills Implementation Plan for Hampshire, Hampshire's Economic Development Strategy, and it also aims to reduce duplication. The types of business support feedback suggests that could have a greater emphasis to include networking, peer learning, mentoring and structured engagement with local business groups. The feedback included suggestions that skills actions could be clearer with a stronger focus on small to medium-sized enterprises' needs, especially in digital, leadership and green skills. Applying a small to medium-sized enterprise lens to new measures would ensure they remain practical, proportionate and affordable for small businesses. Monitoring measures could reflect business engagement and employee involvement in these skills programmes. Feedback emphasised the importance of high streets within economic activity and also the suggestion of an introduction of a small business champion to complement the work of the economic development team within the council. I would like to say that I have taken on board these comments and will be meeting with everybody that has given feedback. Also, that the skills suggestions have already been reflected within our New Forest District Council Skills Action Plan. To keep the economic development strategy current, an annual action plan is recommended, setting out our partner roles in the available resources. Thank you.
I thought I could keep this on. Thank you very much. Peter, first.
Councillor Peter Armstrong. I might sound a bit of a broken record on a couple of these things. I brought them up last year, and one of them was the skills, and I said, what about schools? And I was told that would be included. I can only see further education establishments as partners. I have a school in my area, which is an academy. It's not directly under Hampshire County Council, so that wouldn't fit under Hampshire County Council. So what has happened? First question, I have a number of questions on this report of having schools in there, not further education establishments, because I was told last year here at the same time that that would be included and we would be liaising with them.
Thank you, Chair. This is the wider strategy for the economic development function of the Council. There are various bits of work going on at the moment in relation to skills through the Skills Action Plan and various working groups, which includes representatives of education providers who are working with colleges, and they're the feeder schools going into colleges to make sure that that children across different age ranges, well below sixth form college and into the secondary schools, and indeed I think even into the primary schools, they are all having opportunities both to hear about the opportunities for skills development, the careers they could have in the district, but also some reverse opportunities within schools as well, where children are almost going and explaining what their skill sets are to new employers. So we're hearing about that last week. So there is a lot going on, and if it's helpful to provide further information on that outside of this panel, then very happy to do that, Councillor Armstrong.
Yeah, I'd be interested in that. The other thing I mentioned, I know about the businesses that we are involved in or directly providing our business support email to. And you say in this report that we've got 7,820 enterprises, 9,045 business units, and we were only in contact with 3,000 on the list of what we're doing, because it's a strategic thing for you, businesses. I mean, when it's in the report, it talks about that our planning department are in touch, and also our regulatory thing are in touch with all the businesses. Is there a link up between our different departments where, like the planning, like the other departments that are in touch with businesses with their rates and everything else, are pushing the support that we can give? You know, because that's communication, because we're not in touch with our business support email with all these many businesses. And it talks about in there, it says we support businesses to locate and grow in the New Forest. That's another thing. We give comprehensive business support. Well, we do, but do all the businesses know about it? You know, that we should be getting this in. We've got communication with every business through one department or another. We should be getting our email and our support thing to many, many more than we are. I said about this last year, and I did ask for it to be actually on our list of KPIs, because if it's a strategic area for us, the business unit, we should be actually showing that we are in communication. We're sending out information regularly. I mean, I get it because I know what's on there, and it's talking about grants, it's talking about things we can do for businesses, but we seem to be quite poor at our communication with them. I've also spoken to Go New Forest, and they're in contact with a lot of businesses, and some businesses they're in contact with aren't getting our support. It also talks about that we will promote the New Forest and facilitate cross-sector networks. The Go New Forest, which is mentioned in there, funding is still an issue for them. I know we took it away and put them outside of the council when it was in-house, but is that something we're supporting to help local businesses as well? So a number of questions all around this, which businesses are strategic for us in the New Forest. They're our economic hub, and I do think we can do a lot more, and this can be taken up. So I'd be interesting to hear from you further.
Thank you, Chair. I'll try and cover those points in brief. Just starting at maybe at the end about Go New Forest and our relationship. We do have a good relationship with Go New Forest. You'll recall from the UK Shared Prosperity Fund, which this panel considered last year about funding, that we are looking at funding initiatives with them to help secure a reliable income going forward. And again, there'll be updates on that in a future panel for your view, but we meet regularly with the Chief Operating Officer of Go New Forest and have a good relationship with them. Funding is an issue in terms of particularly on the visitor economy and the marketing of that, and we've been working with them and sitting down to look at are there other opportunities to secure funding to ultimately to promote the New Forest as that visitor economy, that destination which people want to come to. So we are, as I say, regularly meeting with Go New Forest. In terms of meeting and engaging with wider businesses, we do two things. We've talked about the business newsletter, which doesn't reach every business in the New Forest. We do have to be mindful both of the resources which we have as a council to proactively reach out, but also the fact that not every business wants to be kept informed. And we try our best in that area. We do, I think we have previously sent out a mail shot alongside when business rates are being issued every year to kind of remind businesses that we are there. So we feel that we have to be proportionate with the limited resources which we as a public authority have. That is that proportionality which we talked about. We do also work very closely with business networks like the New Forest Business Partnership, who have to be, they are the people that connect businesses together. That's the very nature of their work. They are doing the networking. Both Jeannie and I and the wider economic development team have been involved in various events to try and reach out to various businesses across the New Forest. So we are doing a variety of different things within the resources we have available. Jeannie, I didn't know if there was anything else to add to that?
No, only that we do work very collaboratively with all of our partners to extend our reach. 9,000 businesses is a lot of businesses to reach, and as Tim said, not everybody wants to, but for those that feel that they need to have specialist support, we are engaging with as many of those as we can through networking, through the business newsletter, other agencies' newsletters, and also their initiatives. We also do work across the council, and we are in collaboration with several of the teams here to widen our reach. We are working on business continuity. We're also working on EcoBoost to cover the reach further as well.
Thank you.
Thank
you. One of them, we've got risk in, and we're going to 2030 with this report, and it doesn't mention anything to do with how devolution will affect it in the report, which is likely to in some way or another. That's not in the risk capacity. And just to follow on, there's another question which I'll just add to this. Talks about local neighbourhood plans. My own parish, I've been told there hasn't been officer time to help. Now, has that changed since this report has been done? Because it said officers, the council's there to back up local neighbourhood plans. So they're just two quick questions. Thank you.
Just very quickly on the 40 neighbourhood plan, again, there has been progress on that, on the neighbourhood plan, which I'm happy to update you outside of this panel. On the matter before, and forgive me, my mind has just suddenly gone black. Devolution and local government reorganisation. Again, it's not specifically referenced in this report at this time, but we'll take that on board for the Cabinet report, which is due before them later in the year. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Peter. Next, Stephanie, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Stephanie Osborne, Councillor Dibden Purley. I was just going to ask, can we have some sort of benchmark of the change in business success after the introduction of the car parking charges, especially, for instance, Lyndhurst comes to mind, because I think you'll find the car parks for the Forest are full with people that are walking across the forest to use the facilities, you know, the cafes, the shops, the restaurants, etc., and including it in their walk. Whereas when they've got to pay, I wonder if that won't be so lubricant, you know, so lucrative, sorry. The other thing is, in our area, we have a row of shops in Hollybank, and I think there might be only maybe 2 businesses left. The rest are empty and look pretty miserable and derelict. So I just wonder what help and how we can pass that on to prospective people who, after all, pay business rates to this council. In the Dimperlu village, we did have a man that failed in the business, and when I went to visit him after not really very long, when he realised that people just didn't know he was there, he was very pleased to know we were there, and one of the officers, I don't know if it was Tim, offered support, but by that time he'd then been robbed, and all the stock was damaged by glass and things like that. So he gave up and didn't want to bother. But it's great for us to know that this is here. It needs to be easier to know a name or, you know, who we communicate with. Thank you.
Thank you. Tim, do you want to answer that one?
Thank you, Chair. In terms of monitoring the impact of any event or change in policy on the vibrancy and vitality of a centre, I think it is a difficult one to monitor. There are some monitoring indicators in the back of the strategy which talk about town centres, and within that we would infer local centres and village centres, of course. So we do look at the, within there are some areas which we'll look on, but I do reflect on your point about how do you monitor the vitality and viability. More generally, we look at sometimes the amount of vacant shop fronts there would be in a town or village centre, and we monitor that annually as a council for the planning area, which we cover. Not necessarily in the New Forest, but again in Lyndhurst specifically, but we do cover Hive and Dibden in that regard. In terms of wider monitoring than that, again, there are options to monitor footfall and those kind of counts about how many people are walking around an area. But again, we just have to be mindful of the resources we do have available to do all of this work and work out what is proportionate. But I will reflect on the points you've raised, and we can maybe look to incorporate that into some modifications to the monitoring.
I just want to remind us all that we are a seasonal area and that the shops rely on during the summer time and the tourists that come here for a big part of their income, and again at Christmas. And I think there's so many things against businesses now that it's a real struggle.
Right, thank you, Beth. Thank you, Stephanie. Malcolm, you're next, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, I'm Malcolm White here. This report is good as far as it goes. But I've got a few points I want to raise, and I'm going to finish with a question. Excuse me. If we were NFDC PLC, this would be great, wouldn't it? But we're not. We are a council. What's our raison d'etre? Our raison d'etre is to look after the area for the betterment of our residents. So a question about what the betterment of our residents is, what is a sign of a good economy? A sign of a good economy is actually not having social deprivation, not having poverty, it's having a fully effective workforce, running businesses, employing lots of people, and a relatively, shall we say, financially comfortable population. 1 in 5 New Forest school children lives in poverty. 1 in 5. I mentioned this in the council meeting, I'm going to say it again. That is not the sign of a good economic area. And it rises. The last few years, it's got more and more each year. Now, if the kids are in poverty, the families are in poverty. So they're not earning enough to pay enough tax for the country anyway. Most of our council tax residents, I think it's something like 75% of our tenants are on their rents are paid for by housing benefit. which is another sign we're not quite as wealthy as we think we are. So I want to know where the people aspect of this is, because I don't see it. If it's in there, I must have missed it. I'm sorry if I have. Please tell me. I'll be standing corrected. But it doesn't reflect the actual economic situation of the residents in our district. That's number one. Now, the next point I want to raise is about, we talk about, it's on the strategic priorities, and we're championing growth sectors. Get that? It's really good. But we've just had, before this, I didn't know it wasn't going to be before, it is now about the environment. Now, a lot of our development is on the coast. And we haven't got into this, how we're going to protect that and make it resilient. Because that is affected. It's not just having supporting strategic growth, it's protecting strategic growth. There is a joined up faction with this, with environment as well. We need to look at this in a joined up approach. The next point I want to raise, and I've raised this before in the council chamber, we talk about Tottenham and the water side. Now, I support fully every bit of support Tottenham has for regeneration. It's a town that's needed that for a long time, and I fully support everything we're doing to help it. But it's not the water side. And because all this effort goes into Tottenham, which it deserves and it needs, the water side tends to get, if not forgotten, it's Tottenham's part of the water side, so we tick that box. It's not good enough. And considering the majority of the councillors here represent waterside wards, I think I am on a fairly safe ground in raising the fact we don't get it down for Hythe, for Fawley, for Marchwood. Let's see the strategy for the large communities on the water side, which incidentally is where all the new development's going. And also the water side provides 45% of this council's business rates. Point worth remembering, right? Okay. The next bit I want to ask, and this is a question. We've got the Freeport rights, and you mentioned in here the Fawley Waterside site. Now, my understanding is that the benefits of Freeport or a tax site are because people make things in it. They take materials in, make something, and it goes out. They don't get the import and export tax. Well, Fawley Waterside is going to be 2 data centres and somebody producing hydrogen. So what are the benefits for the Freeport in that? What are the benefits for the residents in that? There aren't any. And I actually don't know they're going to benefit from it. If they do get a tax benefit from it, fantastic for them. But there's no benefit even for the overall area on that. And I'm sorry to sound negative, but I want this council to do well. And therefore, I want to be the critical friend to point out where we can do better in looking at these issues. Because we need to look at these things holistically rather than silo. Economy is affected by people, which that's environment. All these things are joined together, and we need a more joined up strategic approach to look at it from that perspective.
Thank you. I wasn't sure what the question was. Forgive me.
The question is about what is the benefit for the Fawley Waterside, for them and for us, for having 2 data centres and an energy producer, because they're not making materialistic things that they get tax benefit from, are they?
Chair, on Fawley Waterside, we are working with the promoters of Fawley Waterside at the moment on it's a 100-acre site, roughly, take or give. I think it's fair to say that the proposals which they're working up are not focused on data centres and the hydrogen project alone. It's got to cover the whole of that area, albeit recognising that that would be a long period of time to come forward. And members have been briefed on the proposals for the hydrogen project led by Hynamics. I wouldn't want to take each individually in turn, but just to reassure you that we as officers in engaging on the Fawley Waterside scheme are pushing the landowners, the promoters, to demonstrate how they are maximising the economic opportunities on that site for both the local residents, particularly of Fawley and Cowshot, but the wider Waterside and New Forest, to make sure that we are delivering a scheme which is ultimately, and the word is deliverable, a scheme which is deliverable, but is delivering that economic growth which Councillor Wade is rightly asking us to really push on. And just that reassurance that we are doing so, and we are very happy to keep you updated on that work as over the next few weeks and months as they come to a bit more detail which we can share with you.
So the question that I wanted, because I genuinely don't know, do they get the tax benefits when they're not producing something, when they're providing a service like a data centre? And the hydrogen, it's not quite the same as raw materials going in without import duty, and then they're extending it out of export duty, because that's the whole basis of it. I just wondered if there's any benefit for them in that.
Chair, I don't think I have the answer for you today, but I'm happy to take that away. My reflection is that these are all uses and things which relate to other activities, and so that's why I was kind of counselling what I was saying. Saying that a data centre alone is not really much about it and a hydrogen project, but it's a wider benefit, the decarbonising for the economy, those kind of issues which we are looking at and exploring with people. But I'm very happy to take that away and come back to Councillor Wade outside this meeting.
One last point, if you could take on board the other points I raised, because it is about people, poverty, we get rid of poverty, and the water side is more than just Tottenham. You know, that we need to be resilient for our things as well, that's all.
Because data centres are fairly high in pollution. It's much bigger than the people that came to speak at us, not to us. The consultants and that. They obviously live within the M25. They didn't have a clue about this area. Data centres are very high pollutant. And why do we need much more hydrogen? Because the company related to Exxon that was making hydrogen has reduced itself because it couldn't sell it. So I'm not very keen on those projects, and neither are the people of the water side, who haven't yet been requested for information on it.
Noted, Chair. We'll take those points on board for the economic development strategy. I think some of those points are wider than the strategy.
That's right, yeah. Was that your question, by the way, Alan? Right, would you like to ask your question?
Sorry to butt in then, but being in the water side, we need to know what's going on sometimes. My question, it's nothing we can do about it, but most of the New Forest is introducing car parking charges for visitors to keep visitors out. So that is obviously going to have a knock-on effect on hotels, bed and breakfasts, cafes, pubs. Is there anything we can do to mitigate that?
Chair, that's a matter which Forestry England are wrestling with, no doubt, at the moment. In terms of any impact on the wider economy, I think we need to be monitoring any impacts in the longer term and then adapting our strategy if we need to in the light of that. My recollection of Forestry England's proposals were that it wasn't designed to keep people away. It was designed to provide funding to maintain the Forestry England estate, including car parks going forward. But the economic development strategy at the moment before you is trying to take a rational and proportionate approach based on the information we have available at this time.
Thank you, Tim. Right, next. Malcolm, have you a question? You were done with it, right. Alvin, you're last on the list.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Alvin Reid, representing Horsell, Milford, etc. Good report, actually. Thank you very much. Malcolm, I think one of your questions is partly answered on page 15, where the role of the council is to champion skills and access to job opportunities. So that was the headline there. I was looking at paragraph 1.9 on page 15. And there's a range of functions there to support economic growth in the district. I wonder if we can have some idea of the prioritisation of those activities as funding becomes available, and what are we doing to seek funding from outside bodies? Are we using people like or 2 members of Parliament and other people to help us get funding to do these activities? That was question number 1.
Chair, could you just repeat, you asked Councillor Reid to repeat the paragraph number? Was it
It's paragraph 1.9 on page 15 of the report.
1.9? Okay.
Council has an important leadership role,
Yeah.
etc., all that lot. So there's a range of activities there. It would be nice to see them prioritised, and how are we going to get funding to do those activities, and what lobbying are we doing, and what external bodies like the MPs are we using to get that funding.
Thank you, Chair. There is no proposal to prioritise those at the moment, but I do take the point and we can go away and reflect on that. Each of those, I would say, are important priorities in their own right. They all address slightly different things within the economic development sphere. In terms of trying to prioritise those, I think that, again, we'll go away and have a think about that. But it'd be a challenge to do so. There are the 6 priorities which we talk about further on in the report. Those are kind of setting out a little bit of a focus for the economic development team as a whole, which would cover some of the points I think Councillor Reid is raising. But again, it's a valid point. But my concern is if we were to say we are prioritising skills development as over and above business support, is that something which is easy for a local authority to do? That's where I'm at in my reflections at the moment.
Okay, thank you. My other one was just a little point actually on page 23, key growth sectors. It is home to a number of national visitor attractions. Please don't forget Sammy Miller's Museum, because that is a national visitor attraction and it sometimes gets forgotten about. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's it, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Thank you, Albert. Right, any other questions? No? Right, well, there's a recommendation that we immediately approve on page 3 of your agenda. Items 1 and items 2 is dealing with feedback and further other discussions. So I think we've met that criteria. Are we agreed?
Agreed.
Thank you very much. Right, moving straight on to item 6, corporate plan, key performance data for quarter 2 in 2025-26. Akib, is over to you, please.
Good evening. Excuse me. Thank you, Chair. Saqib Yassin, I'm the Performance and Insight Manager. I'll be talking to the Corporate Plan Key Performance Indicator dashboard. These are for quarter 3, so they're presenting data for October to December 2025. Measure IDs 16 through to 33 only are for police and sustainability review, as always. Just to reflect on the number of KPIs coming into Q3, there are 24 in total. 7 of the KPIs are marked for consideration this evening. As before, our planning measures performed very well, again, with only a small dip in minor applications in time. It was still well above the government target. 8 planning appeals were heard during the period and all were dismissed. Households using our chargeable garden waste service has increased by 1%. However, the target was also increased by 1% due to us needing to attach a stretch target nature to this measure. There are a number of reported fly tipping incidents in quarter 3, reduced from 918 in quarter 2 to 617 in Q3. New signage and clear instructions has been introduced at all sites, and it's brought down the number of fly tipping incidents at Bring sites, specifically over the last 3 quarters, from 219 in Q1, 182 in Q2 and 116 in Q3. However, the service has informed us that from previous years typically shows increases in Q4. And the panel will remember that at the last meeting we provided quite extensive insight and deep dive analyses into fly tipping and specifically bring sites. So I do hope that that addressed some of the concerns that were raised last time. The dashboards, as always, will be pushed through all three panels and will ultimately be presented to Cabinet on the 1st of April with any matters arising from the panel meetings. Thank you.
Stephanie Osborne, Dibden Polo. Yeah, the question I'd like to ask you is about the fly tipping. Obviously, people see it, they see it's tipped, or sometimes might see it in action. Can you hear me? Yes. And, and I just wonder, could we have what's called a hotline so that people know they can actually ring it and report it, rather than trying to ring customer services and, you know, all that paraphernalia? But I just feel that would be a real help to it.
I'll refer that to Chris, who's sat next to me.
Yeah, thank you. Obviously, if anyone's doing anything, if a member of the public sees another member of the public doing something that's illegal, which fly tipping is, and they obviously do have the option of speaking to the police, we will obviously take reports of fly tips so that we can clear them, but also so we can investigate them. So just because the perpetrator may have been and gone from a scene, we will absolutely still investigate, and we have an enforcement team who will go and look for evidence to enable a prosecution if possible. So yeah, we can take action however that information comes into us.
I was thinking more along the lines of a number on one of these signs that we've now got everywhere for other things. And also, yeah, that the public know it is okay to take a photograph if they see someone doing fly tipping, or, you know, I realise who it was that was doing it. Then I think sometimes people are scared because obviously you don't want to confront anybody. But I just feel this is something we could be better at stopping or making them realise. I mean, I remember once the car park not far from Lyndhurst, down towards Denny Lodge, there must have been about 30 mattresses dumped there, and I could not believe my eyes. But it wasn't easy when you're driving to pull over and report it. So I just think it'd be good if it was more publicity as to what to do.
Just on that point about the quick method of reporting, I'll take that one away because we are doing a lot of work around the customer services and having a single number for people to report incidents like that. So I can have a look at that.
Right, thank you, Seki. In fact, it's a good report. Things seem to be going, unfortunately, in the right direction. I'll stand back. Welcome.
Don't be so negative. Yeah, first of all, I think it's a very good report. Your usual detailed standard, could I say. But I have two questions. The first one is about fly tipping. Have we seen an increase in the phase 1 and phase 2 areas of flow tipping? Because we are now engaging with our residents to have a finite amount of waste in the bin. That's the first question, because I know we've got an increase. And the second question is about KPIs. We're now at the end of 25-26, or near enough. Probably by this time next week, we will know which unitary authority we will be going in. We should know before the PERDA period starts on 25th of March. Will we be doing a series of KPIs geared to the LGR process for the next 12 months?
Thank you. So I think firstly on the bin rollout and the implications of that on fly tipping, we didn't see a marked increase in fly tipping as a result of the rollout. We do know that there were some instances where we suspected that there were bad practices that were now being exposed due to us being more stringent in how we're expecting waste to be presented to us for collection. That was all detailed in the report that went to last panel. You'll also remember, I think, from the previous panel, we did do a correlation exercise between the waste rollout and the instance of complaints that came in regarding that service. So that would have been again led initially by our complaints team. That did show a correlation between the rollouts happening and complaints. As far as I understand, that has fairly levelled, and that's really because of the learning that came out of the initial phase of the rollout being brought in and applied into the subsequent phases of the waste rollout. So that's one aspect. The other aspect around LGR and whether we're revising KPIs or amending KPIs or indeed creating new KPIs as a result of the implications of LGR. So our corporate plan runs from 2024 to 2028, so that will, that as long as that is in effect, we will continue to report our KPIs. There are, of course, opportunities to revise that, and we did that last year. And as we enter into Q4 and year end, we will be reaching out to services to revise targets, update targets. And you may remember we changed a few of ours in the place panel to make the targets more challenging. So we'll be doing that again. We do also have the LGR team capturing specific data metrics and measures, and those are all formed alongside our potential partners and our private sector partners who are helping to transition us into the new council once that happens past vesting period. So there's lots of work going on, lots of data gathering exercise. It's a huge undertaking, but those aren't specifically reported to the corporate plan dashboard. They have a separate reporting mechanism.
Thank you, Sakib. You have finished, Malcolm? Right, fine. Okay, any other questions? As I said, I thought this was a good report. It had good things in it. I mean, the fly tipping alone is reducing since the earlier part of the year. And as I said before, it's probably because you're picking it up a bit more than as much as that. And the other thing is that on your dashboard, the number of, shall we say, red squares that exist is very, very low, which is an excellent sign. So congratulations, thank you very much. Right, next. On to item 7, and that's our portfolio holders' reports. Councillor Jeff Blunden, can I ask you to present?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Councillor Jeff Blunden, portfolio holder for the environment and sustainability. If I can start off with waste. This week, residents in the Phase 3 area of our new waste and recycling collection service will start to receive their wheelie bins and their food waste caddies. This is the final phase of the district-wide rollout, which of about 36,000 homes in the Hythe, Fawley, Lyndhurst, Marchwood and Totton and surrounding areas. Once complete, every household in the district will be using the new service, making a major milestone in our plans to increase recycling, reduce waste and meet the national waste and recycling legislation. More than 47,000 households are already using the system, and we have carried out almost 4 million collections in Phase 1 and Phase 2 areas. We're already seeing the benefits from increased recycling, cleaner streets, and really fantastic levels of participation in the food waste recycling. So far, more than 2,000 tonnes of food waste has been collected for recycling, helping to turn that material into what otherwise would be thrown away into renewable energy and fertiliser. Bin and caddy deliveries will take place right the way through to the end of April, ready for the new collection starting in May. During this period, residents can check on our website to see which areas have been delivered to and the latest advice. I also wanted to pick up, particularly tonight, on fly tipping and our enforcement policy. With the recent publication of a revised environmental enforcement policy, I am pleased to reaffirm our commitment to taking very firm action against those who choose to harm the New Forest special environment. Recent positive progress has led to the identification of an individual responsible for a significant fly tipping episode within the district. With the support of the Council's legal services team, this case is now progressing through the courts. And as a warning to those tempted to dump waste illegally, the vehicle has been seized, and upon conviction we will be seeking a court order for its destruction. This case, along with other 8 cases, are currently proceeding to prosecution, which demonstrates our ongoing commitment to targeting those responsible for these environmental offences. In every case, it is both reasonable and necessary that the Council seeks to recover legal costs as well as the costs associated with clearing the waste. Recently, NFDC has attended joint operations targeting waste carriers over 2 days of action. Our environmental enforcement officers inspected 35 vehicles to check for valid waste carrier licences, and that was supported by our partners from the police, the DVLA Standards Agency and Forestry England. These operations resulted in 4 Section 5 notices being issued requiring the drivers to produce their waste carrier licences, 1 vehicle being seized due to roadworthiness concerns, and 2 other vehicles receiving notices by the police for immediate repairs. So I hope, members, that demonstrates the actual proactive and positive work that this council is taking to address fly tipping. On the coastal, in late December, there was a significant fall just east of Barton-on-Sea, and this led to the closure of the Clifftop Path, which runs very close to the cliff top. And that was showing further signs recently of instability. This week and next, our grounds maintenance teams will be moving the existing fence line back to increase the width of the cliff top access and to ensure that there is ample space for people to enjoy the public path. And I'd just like to put on my record my thanks to Barton-on-Sea Golf Club, who have been working closely with our team to facilitate this project. The path will be open hopefully within the next week probably, but certainly in plenty of time for Easter. Thank you, Chairman.
Just got a question for Jeff here, your portfolio holder. Would you agree as the portfolio holder that when the phase 3 rollout is complete and all the boxes are ticked, that it would be a good idea for this council and perhaps for scrutiny through this committee to do a review of how the whole project has gone. So there may be some win-learns for the council for other projects going forward that we may do while we're here. It's the win-learn activity, we used to call it in business when you do something. And would you not agree this panel is the ideal vehicle to do that?
Certainly I can reconfirm, because that has been brought up before, that at the conclusion of the phase 3 rollout, we will be reviewing not only phase 3 but all of phases 1, 2 and 3, looking at lessons to be learned from that, but also any modifications, because that might not be the end of it. We have to take that forward.
Thank you, Chairman. Stephanie Osborne, Dibden, Purley, Councillor Blunden. can I just ask that we might learn a bit more about the recycling and where and what type of materials are going to be used, or what businesses are being used to recycle the stuff? So at a later date, I'd be very interested. That is a question I'm getting asked repeatedly. The other sort of question I thought of while you were talking is the fly tipping. Is it of a certain nature, or is it where people have asked someone to take away their rubbish, believing them to be, licence holders, and they've just dumped it instead of taking it to the facilities? And also, lastly, shouldn't we be glad we've got these licensed businesses that are taking rubbish away and disposing of it responsibly? Thank you.
I think I'll try and remember all the questions. I'll take the last one. It is obviously if residents need to get rid of some rubbish to be taken away for disposal, it is essential that they look at the carrier licence. They ask those questions. That is a fundamental question that should be asked. What was the other question? Sorry, the other one?
Can we learn where the recycling is going? I know you said about the food waste is a success and it's going to be changed into something for energy, but just the recycling bin that's going to be collected every 2 weeks. I'd be interested to know what materials are going where and what's being made and what sort of businesses are generating from this recycling. What's my other one?
I'll just answer that one. If you, which has actually been raised before, we have identified as we approach to the end of the phase 3, the need for education of what needs to be done for recycling, but the whole area of waste collection. The important thing is to explain to people, and I think we did suggest that we will be going out to young people and visiting schools, but that is down the line a bit. There is confusion. There's confusion nationally about items that can be recycled, and that is a real challenge. And hopefully, as there is a wider approach taken to recycling, it will become, and it needs to become, a lot clearer, because we know if you go over the borders into BCP, what they collect and recycle is different to what we collect, and that's because it's the main plants who are dealing with that waste material in a different way.
I think my second question was what type of things are being fly tipped now, just to see what's the problem. Is it because it's industrial waste being tipped because they can't afford it, or what's the main reason that there is fly tipping being done? Might be suggested by what it is that's being done.
Yeah, I haven't any data on that to hand at the present time, but I can certainly find out the data. What I do know is, but it's a sort of snapshot. You do get the industrial fly tipping, but also you get what I call the general household waste fly tipping, and that's basically products from a house which somebody has paid somebody to dispose of, and it just gets dumped.
Thank you very much, Jeff. Derek Tipp, please. 1 second, Derek. Party, Peter.
Councillor Piddles, just a quick one to Jeff Blunden. Councillor Jeff Blunden, have we any update on the new facility Hampshire are building? If not, while we're here and Chris is here, perhaps when we do get any updates, it can come through while we're doing the waste rollout, that Chris can update us on that through his waste email, which comes out. I don't know whether there's any update, because we don't want to see delay on that, really.
Yeah. I understand it's on programme, but certainly all members are now, and I hope you read them, getting the regular updates on waste, and we'll make sure that is there. Also, it's an opportunity for me to remind everybody, it's not only the sort of email updates you'll be getting, but it's an opportunity to do our open sessions as we go through phase 3 on a regular basis, and there is one coming up shortly, to give members an opportunity to understand and ask any questions.
Thank you, Peter, and thank you, Jeff. And Malcolm, you've got a question.
Sorry, I meant that. To add to your point, one of the problems with our recycling is Hampshire's contract with Veola that doesn't include all recyclables. Other counties have more recyclables in their contract than we do. Now, the question I wanted to ask was that back in 2019, when we sat on the waste panel, I remember that far back, and we talked about how this process was going to get to where we are. Myself and another colleague, we raised the spectre. The top of the waste hierarchy is waste reduction, because this council hadn't really looked at that for 20 years when we used to have a waste reduction committee. Now, shortly when we have got all of our waste out of phase 3 done and all the rest of it dusted, can I request that we start looking at waste minimisation for 2 reasons. First of all, it's good for the environment. Secondly, it saves us money, because if we haven't got to collect it, we haven't got to get paid to get rid of it. Right, so there is a win-win for that. And in the remaining years of this council, this could be a very good environmental challenge for us to take on board. Because waste reduction, believe it or not, will have a huge impact on the environment.
I think to answer that question, that comes back to what Stephanie was talking about before, and that is about the education, but certainly the hierarchy of reduce, reuse, recycle is firmly there. I mean, tonight I've talked about it is a success on the amount of tonnage of food waste we're collecting at the moment, because that tonnage would have gone to general waste. But the result is, of course, is to not throw the food waste away to start with. And again, it's about recycling as well. So I think those points are well and truly made.
Thank you, Jeff. All right, everybody's finished. Okay, thank you to our 2 portfolio holders. Thank you very much.
You haven't done Derek yet. You haven't done Derek yet.
Haven't I?
No.
Oh.
No, you were about to start when Malcolm asked the question.
I wonder why I was smiling.
You thought you got away with it.
I do apologise, Derek. Jeff went on for so long, I completely lost it.
I knew you weren't going to forget me. Councillor Derek Tipp, portfolio holder for planning and the economy. Local plan, I'll start with. We are now well underway with the local plan spatial options and policy directions consultation, which runs until the 20th of March. Engagement so far has been very strong. We've held 10 drop-in events across the district, which have been extremely well attended, with around 1,400 people, including a 450-person event in Hordle on Monday, coming along to speak with the team, view the material, and share their views. We thank everyone who has attended, and I would particularly like to thank our planning team for all their hard work at these drop-in events, that putting in considerable hours of time. Residents have raised a wide range of issues, including infrastructure, capacity, flooding, housing affordability, and site-specific concerns. And all of this feedback is being captured and will help shape the next stage of the local plan. Alongside the events, people can respond through our online questionnaire on the NFDC website via Go Vocal. Email responses are also accepted, but the website is the easiest way to take part. And importantly, residents don't need to answer every question. They can comment only on the sites or topics that matter most to them. We're grateful for the level of engagement so far, and continue to encourage everyone to visit our website, view the consultation documents, and send us their comments before the 20th of March. And I'd just like to add that I have done this, and I hope every member does have a go at this, so that they can see how the process works, and it may help them to help other residents, perhaps, who want to take part. And it is a bit of an ordeal, because it's a very large document with a huge number of chapters. So, you know, you can't do it in 5 minutes. And I would suggest that you actually do a small bit and then leave it and come back and do the next bit, because if you try and do it all in one go, you can be overwhelmed by it. But it is well worth having a go. Now I'm going to turn to economic development update, and I'll start with an event that took place in January, the Totton Business Breakfast. The officer-led Totton Business Breakfast in January brought together 22 local businesses for networking updates on key projects in Totton and introductions to local support organisations. There was strong enthusiasm for future events. So we are engaging, as you see, with local businesses, and of course that came up earlier. We've got the Eco Boost pilot, and if you want to know more about the Eco Boost pilot, then I suggest you read the economic development strategy, because there is quite a little bit in there about it. But it's a £40,000 pilot in partnership with the Environment and Sustainability portfolio, so Jeff's portfolio, and this is to help small businesses cut their energy use and costs through workshops, site visits, tailored advice and grants. And then we come to the Business Resilient workshops, also in partnership with the Environment and Sustainability portfolio. We're running free workshops to help businesses prepare for disruptions like power cuts, flooding and supply chain problems, giving them practical tools to stay operational and recover quickly. Then we come to the Skills Action Plan itself, and that's, you had that a little bit earlier, and now we're actually starting 3 active skills action plan groups, and they are the Young People's Group, the Empower and Employ Group for over 50s, returners and career changers, and thirdly, the Entrepreneurs Group, which is focusing on recruitment, challenges and skills gaps. So quite a lot of work going on there, and we hope that this is going to help the area as a whole. I mean, we can't help everybody all at once. We've not got a magic wand, but what we do is bound to improve the area as a whole, even though we may only reach a smaller number. So we're working collaboratively with partners to achieve maximum benefits. The Forest Heritage Business Exhibition, this is an interesting one. I attended that myself the other day. It's a new exhibition celebrating long-standing New Forest businesses, and it's open at the Lyndhurst Heritage Centre until the 27th of April, and NFDC is a sponsor and partner of this. So do drop in and have a look at that exhibition. There's a lot of very interesting businesses there. The Food and Drink Awards, we're also sponsoring the new Young Talent category at the Advertiser and Times 2026 Food and Drink Awards, and the final is on the 24th of March. I very much look forward to attending it and perhaps tasting some of these delicious things. You never know. Finally, the UK Shared Prosperity Fund and the Rural England Prosperity Fund update. Those funds, as you know, came from the government, and we had altogether about £2 million sent to us. And where delivery is progressing well. Most projects are on track. Several business and community projects are complete. And initiatives like the Apprenticeship Hub are nearing the finish line. Since 2022, we have supported skills, business resilience, communities, and environmental projects. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Derek. Get you on speaker. Right. Okay, thank you very much, gentlemen. Going to item 8 is the work programme, which is the last paper on your agenda. Malcolm.
Don't sound so negative, I want to say. When I questioned the portfolio holder about having a review, I did recognise that we've got a review on. It says an initial review. But what I would like to see is a full review, because there's more of a win-learn in that process than just a short report, that's all. Just wanted to clarify that for...
Thank you, Malcolm. Right. Okay, moving on to item 8, the work programme. It's the last paper on your agenda. Just to note that our next meeting will be the 18th of June, height of summer. Shirt sleeves will be allowed, hopefully. And that, I think, comes to the end of it. So I can go over the page. There's nothing. Item 9 is anything I would wish to stay, and there is nothing further to add. So I now declare the meeting closed.